Hello everyone, I hope you are all well. Please forgive me for the setup. This that you see right here is from the essence that I just trying to maneuver. Obviously when it's lit, you'll see it as it comes down. The ash has fallen, but I seem to, or somebody in the house has misplaced my stand. So firstly, this will be released to members, then to all on YouTube. I'd like to thank those of you that have sent me a message on my email or in the comments, asking, keeping your thoughts with me, validating any of my readings. So today I'm going to look at some politics, but also Nick Reiner case, which I've been holding back for a bit, and I wanted to do Brooklyn Beckham as well. The Nick Reiner case, when it all happened, I've made a few comments on a true crime podcast. Sorry, before that, let me just say something. I'm aware of the things that are happening around ICE in the US right now. My thoughts, I don't want to get into it too much. My thoughts are with everyone in the US, especially in those states. So I didn't know it was two, and the second incident, which I believe is definitely the word M, Redrum. Disclaimer, this for entertainment purposes only. So is the first, but they're two very different, and I don't really want to get into it because it's very sad, and I don't want to upset anyone. But it's also ignorant not to say my thoughts are not with those in the US right now. Again, thank you to, if you're still a member, if you are a member, and thank you to those that left a comment. Please, if you enjoy the content, I used to post 2 times a day, sometimes 1 time a day, and then every other day, but it was very regular. I've got quite a lot of predictions to go on, and I had done in a small circle on Patreon the Black Swan era, which was from December to the end of February into March. You're going to get some shocks and real unpredicted stuff, and we can see that that's happened with what's going on, Venezuela, etc. In my past predictions, which also held me back a little bit, I did predict a lot of what's playing out. So, for example, Iran, a lot of people thought that there would be external bombing of Iran directly. And I said Iran's going to go through a massive internal tension, pressure, and change. And here we go. So, bear with me while we go through the predictions. You can grab your cuppa, you can go ahead. I will probably separate this from the Nick Reiner if I continue to. I'm going to speak on Nick Reiner now, but if I keep it, and obviously if you see this, I've gone ahead and posted it. The Nick Reiner case, I think, is very complex for people to quick judge if you have not had a relative or yourself been in a situation where there has been that family member that has been on drugs, the family member that it doesn't seem to just get along and move forward with the trauma in coping mechanisms that a lot of us do. Nick Reiner's case, including channeling here, is very complex. One thing I do want to say, if the death penalty is put on this by the state, Michelle, by the way, is a bit more quieter, but Rob, they don't see this as justice. In fact, even after what he's done, if going to an institution for, a good period of years and let go, that's what they would be happy with. So if it's by insanity, basically, but that he eventually gets out. So again, you still see that trauma bond. And absolutely, you know I can speak on this. When you have a relative like this, you know the good person of them, and you know the side that you see when they're on drugs or when they're going off, and they're completely different. And you also see the mental torture because you see other stuff like OCD, maybe heating up their food about 20 minutes 3 times in the microwave, showers that are like 1 hour and there's leaks coming through. um there's rage that happens, there's abuse that happens. I'm giving you examples, I'm not directing this to my personal experience. And then you see their own mental torture, and it's kind of like they're going through their own mental torture, yet there's the mental torture that's there, and there's the emotional bond. And I think they don't know where the um selfish manipulation narcissism begins and ends in comparison to the addiction. And with Nick, I looked at a interview that I think it would have been one of the ones that you're all very familiar with. And this interviewer asked Nick a question, and Nick was about to respond. Now, either the interviewer or Rob began to say something, so Nick quickly shut down. Nick had gone through, his parents were willing to do as much as they can. Now, I don't have notes right now, I'm just channeling what I was getting previously. And Rob was up for everything and anything. Now, the problem with that is you can also fracture someone further. What do I mean by that? Nick has a fracture. I'm not excusing him to go into insanity or institution or to be let off or anything like that, whatever the justice is. But I'm trying to explain what I get, and a little bit, it's very complicated. And Rob himself went through bouts of extreme depression. And Nick, I get from him, if you were to say to him now, you redrummed your parents, it's kind of like the response is like it neutral in the middle. It's kind of like he doesn't, it's like he knows he's done it, but he doesn't. The weight of it, what it is, what it actually means, it's what is, there's a disconnect. There's a fracture there, and I wonder if some of the treatment he got fractured him even more, because they were willing to do anything and everything. Even Rob, I think this movie where they say they did a Charlie movie, Rob, what I get, was doing that movie and didn't have much intervention to direct it and add to it, which I'll be interested to see what you guys say. How is the movie if you've seen it? Is it like really compelling? Is it something that wraps up well, tells a smooth story, or is it like, actually, if we want to criticize or if we want to compare it to best movies, there's not much there, and there's not much of a wrap up or an outcome, or whatever it is. And it, I sense that this was Rob's way of propelling Nick forward, to know he has he's basically like a healing, an expression, a bonding, but also for Nick to have the confidence and see that he has the ability I wonder if he had expressed that Nick feels the weight that he could not live up to being in this, I want to say generation, but I don't know if it is generational, of entertainment that way, with a legacy of also not only entertainment of acting, but strong directing, writing, producing, whatever is in that mix. And so in some cases, Nick, as much as he had, there was no gratitude there, because he was just, he couldn't see it. And that's what some things are when you're dealing with people who go on these psychotic kind of rugs. There's absolutely no gratitude for what they have, and so it's kind of like, actually what you say is I should be grateful for is actually a heavy weight and a burden on my shoulder. And that would be until Nick is, you know, not got any contact with his family and experienced a true kind of situation of being part of a normal family. And I don't mean like a temporary living out, because that legacy is still there and his parents would still come back. It's very hard to maybe even, I presume it would have been done, but call the police on your child, on your brother, on your sister. You want to try and calm the situation down, but when it comes extremely difficult, where you think the person might just grab a sharp object and actually KILLU, because you can see that the psychotics, what's happening within the rage, is doing that. Now, I understand they're saying he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but I'm giving you the side where what I want to tell you, there is a fracture there. And I'm not excusing him, because we all have trauma and issues, and often the child or the person like Nick, it's very difficult, it's painful to be his mother, his father, his sister, his brother, and yet it's such a burden. And so it's kind of like, I think some people that would have this situation and the person ends up passing away from their own cause might say there's a sense of relief, because there's constant tension and anxiety. Are they going to do something? Have they done this something to themselves? Where are they? They're missing. Are they going to do something to us, etc., etc.? And you don't know. There's red flags, and I guarantee you there's an enormous amount of red flags. But he's, I don't know why I'm getting an anonymity, not anonymous, animosity. I'm getting that coming through, is really around the heavy weight of having to be. And he did have depression, okay. But so you might hear in the news coming up that he's laughing with his lawyer, he was laughing with the guards or stuff. There is a disconnect there. There is an absolute disconnect. And when Rob and Michelle were trying to do their best, this also meant different treatments. And I feel like some of the stuff that he might have been given could have causes extra a fracture rather than balancing. There's a point of taking stuff and rehabs, etc., that are not helpful when they're continuous. But there's shame there, and he just couldn't do it. And there's a shutdown, you know, there's a shutdown of like shame internally, but then I don't care. I don't, you know, I don't want this, just get me away. It's very a complex situation. back in the days, if Rob was told that electric shock would cure, back in the days when they said about electric shock, I'm getting that he would have even tried it. He would have tried everything. He wanted to be his friend, his confidant. I'm getting that word. But also, although he didn't necessarily always like it, he knew he had to put his foot down and be the tough, rigid father. And I think that part of being the tough, rigid father in some way took Rob back to his childhood. Now, most of the anger, I would say, was to the father, because it's kind of like he's brought that legacy, and as opposed to Nick seeing how lucky he is, he just saw all this, and to a certain extent, like I said, it comes to a stage where they're narcissism, self manipulation, selfishness. They don't know where it ends, where it begins, but it's everything to do with them to get what they want from an individual, even a family member, against where the addiction and the trauma that they're feeling ends and begins. But that's what I was getting around the movie. It wasn't he gave it full reins to Nick without asking to improve something, to rewrite something, to benefit it further. Now, I think this 26th of January, I think there's something that came out that there's a conservative, or there was. What I get when I prod that made Nick feel even more like a small boy, a failure. It's not quite a failure. It's kind of like, oh, here we go again. It's on me. I'm the one that's being out of my other siblings. It's me again. I'm the one who's, the troublemaker. He doesn't see the concerns there, but he was grown at the time, and it's kind of like in a control mechanism. I think he also saw that his father had passed whatever he had, Nick, the issues. He feels like it came from his father. And although he felt like his mother would be a bit more emotionally there for him, she was also complacent or a bit distant in a way, where he could get more out of his mother, but there's also a bit of a disconnect. Yeah, this is like a fracture. I really do get that. And there's quite a lot of, we all have it in our families, trauma. And when something's very complex and there's a deep fracture, and Nick is seen as the one that's just not going normal with life, all that suddenly cracks and shatters to open it up, doesn't it? I know I should have made notes because there was something else I wanted to say. But that's really what I was getting. Very difficult, sad situation. I don't know where they are on this, but I just wanted to share. He did have, and I feel like he went through something that kind of, listen, rugs and that sort of stuff make your soul, put gaps in your soul for things to enter, but there's something that also either created larger fractures within his being, or something actually happened that shook him and created that larger fracture of a total disconnect from reality. That evening would have had red flags in terms of abnormalities, and also, I believe, looking in his eyes, even if he wasn't acting with it, there would have been malice and rage. So, for example, if he was talking to guests, he'd give like a snarky malice laugh and then be just very like poker, no emotion. And just kind of fed up with being in that environment. But then if you took him and asked him what environment he'd want to be in, he wouldn't really know what environment. So that's what I have to say on Nick Reiner. Now we're going to go into politics, and I will do a separate thing on further information and a mixed bag and other stuff. So I hope you're still with me. If you're still with me, give me a comment, a like, help on the YouTube, you know. My throat hurts after that. I did want to pull cards on this, to be honest, but with the current setup, it's very difficult. Now, let's go into some